We're back with a bonus conversation you'll only see here on CBS News New York. So we now switch to talk about the problems that you're having dealing with the children of immigrants and the strain that it's now putting on the school system. First of all, the need to bus students to the schools they started out in.
Sure.
How is that impacting you and your budgets?
It's going to be a real challenge, I'll tell you that, because as students are now being moved around, imagine a student who's been in the Bronx and has gotten off to a great start in school and doing well, and now they're in Queens somewhere at a new site. Well, we're doing everything we can to keep them in the other schools. It's costly to continue to bus this number of students across the city, but that's not everybody. Some students, we're moving them into schools that are closer to where they are now. Some of them, for the parents, that's what they would prefer to have. They don't want their kids to be traveling for an hour and a half to get back to school, and they're only in the second grade. So we're trying to measure between both, but it's a challenge.
So basically, are you saying that it may be the best thing to move them when they move locations, to move them to a new school? Or is that too uprooting for kids depending on their age?
It's a balance, right? And so we're trying to find that balance, because ideally you would want to be in a school much closer to where you live, particularly when you're a younger student. And for parents, that I think is important to them as well. And yet, the students had already started to build relationships with teachers at the existing school, and now you've moved far away from that school, but those are the folks that you know. They've already gone through a very traumatic experience, and they've started to build relationship and family in the schools and settling in, and all of a sudden they're being moved again. So it's tough. So some of them we're maintaining where they were, and others, parents have even said, if they could be closer. Older students is a different story. They can move around a little bit more autonomy. But when you're talking about our babies, we try to keep them as close to home as possible.
So I know that in these tough budget times, it's also causing budget problems for you, because I read that it's going to cost something like $625,000 just to bus a few hundred students that need to be bused from where they are now to their schools, which is a long way.
It is, yeah. Listen, we've got tremendous financial challenges anyway, and so this is yet another cost that we're going to have to deal with.
What about the question of getting teachers who can teach kids who may not speak English as their first language?
We've been doing a pretty good job with that. As you know, earlier in the year, we made an announcement about teachers who actually have that license to do that, but we're not doing it in the past because they would have to give up their other license that they were teaching under. So we're seeing some real movement there. And we're also finding that there are other folks who are not necessarily teachers, but they are also part of the faculty who also speak the language, who've also played a major role here in helping the kids to feel welcome in the language that they speak.
I think it's important for you to give our viewers a sense of just how many children of migrants you have had to absorb in the last few years.
Yeah. Since the migrant surge began, we're talking about over 30,000+ students.
30,000 students?
30,000 students.
That's dozens and dozens of schools worth of migrant children.
Just by itself, absolutely. Those folks will have a deeper understanding about just how significant this challenge is. Now, listen, for us, outside of the politics and outside of the resources, kids are kids. And any child that shows up, it's our responsibility to love them and to teach them. And that's what's happening all across the city. What you are finding politically is the challenge around the finances and the resources that we need to be able to do the best job to receive all of these kids and to help them. But when you see the kids, I could take you, Marcia, to visit schools where we've received dozens of migrants in a particular school. You wouldn't even know the difference between them and any of the other students in the school.
So there must be some part of you that feels that the federal government hasn't done enough to help both the city, but also the Department of Education, as you seek to find the funds to deal with these students who have special needs.
Absolutely. I mean, we've continued to support the mayor and the governor in the call to the federal government to say we need help. And, you know, the mayor has said it over and over again. We're kind of dealing with this issue on our own. And it really is not fair. And the costs that are associated with this migrant crisis are now going to be felt in our schools. So we're not blaming the migrants themselves, but we are saying to the federal government, we need help we need additional resources to deal with this. And it's not just New York, it's other cities as well, but many of us have been left to just figure it out on our own, and that's not fair.
How much of a challenge has it been?
Well, it's been a challenge in one sense that, well, let me tell you the upside of this. The upside is that these are great kids, and their families are here, and they just simply want the best for their families and for their kids. And I love that. They show up, they're willing learners, they come to school every day, they're like a sponge. And so they are the latest wave, if you will, of immigrants who've come to this country. This country is built on the backs of immigrants. And every immigrant population that has come here historically has gone through challenge and some level of trauma. And that is what's happening here. But all the generations in the past also met that moment, and that's what we're going to do as well.
But you're also really saying that they're adding to the culture of the school as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, when you do it right and you are accepting, as we are with our Project Open Arms work, these are young people who are coming from all around the world. And we get a chance when we're seeking our better angels to learn from them and to see the different cultures that people are representing and what they can bring to add to what our former Mayor David Banks would call the gorgeous mosaic. And it's only a gorgeous mosaic if you lean in intentionally to make it that. Otherwise, we see each other as the other, and we turn on each other. And we're not operating at our best when we do that.
That's a really important thing that you just said.
Thank you.
Really. But I also wonder what the budget cuts and the fact that you have to now do another 5% budget cut and possibly another one after that is going to do to your ability, A, to deal with the migrant children in the school system, but in general, as you seek to find ways to do more with less.
We're talking about well over $1 billion in cuts that ultimately are going to be visited upon our school system.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. That's a lot of good programs that we are faced with losing. I know that the city council is now going to be in hardcore negotiations with the mayor, and I certainly hope that the cuts are not as significant to the schools as they look like they are right now. That's why these negotiations have to happen. But I think no matter how this plays out, you're going to see our schools are going to suffer significant losses that, you know, there's no way to get around it, are not going to feel good, and it's not going to be a good thing for us.
So are we talking about fewer teachers, fewer classes, less programs?
Yeah, primarily we're talking about less programs. The mayor has said unequivocally that we are not going to be getting rid of or there'll be any layoffs that are going to be happening. But I'll give you an example. Summer Rising was one of the most important programs that we had. You know, we had over 110,000 kids in the program, and we could easily have 150,000 students. Those programs of Summer Rising helped to teach kids to read. It kept them off the streets. It allowed their parents to be able to move on and do other things. Kids were doing academic work. They were working with community-based organizations to be involved in all kinds of fun activities. It was the perfect way to spend the summer. Summer Rising as a program is now under threat. We may not be able to have a Summer Rising program as a result of this. That's what I mean. So it's not a layoff of teachers, but it's the programs that we have that have been so successful. Those are the things that are in danger.
Does that break your heart?
Absolutely. You know, when you lead with your heart like I do on behalf of kids and their families, it is heartbreaking to have to be here at a time when we're suffering these kinds of financial strain. But I'm also a grown-up, and I work very closely with the mayor, who is charged with the responsibility of balancing the city's budget. And I've had a lot of other folks who've said to me, we know you have financial challenge, but don't cut this program, don't cut that program, don't cut anything, and don't raise taxes, but good luck. That to me is not responsible. We need people who are going to come to the table with real solutions to say, let's do it this way, and that's what I'm hoping will happen during this negotiations.
I wonder if it's going to affect the mayor's special program to deal with dyslexia in the schools.
No. One of the things I will tell you that we have committed to, there are a number of priorities that we have that we're going to fight tooth and nail to make sure, and that is NYC Reads. We are fully committed to ensuring the literacy of all of our kids. Our kids are going to learn to read and become confident readers by the 3rd grade. That is our #1 priority.
And that's the new phonics reading program.
That's right. And getting phonics more fully engaged. It hadn't been used for years. It's incredible. But the work we're doing around dyslexia and ensuring that all of those kids are getting the supports that they need, those are our top priorities, and we're going to make sure that we continue to support that. The work we do on career pathways, so when kids are graduating from our schools, they have a clear understanding about the kinds of opportunities that they can do in the world of work. Really important. So there are certain things that we are fully committed to. There are lots of other programs that are really great, and those are the things that I'm very concerned about.
Well, Chancellor, I wish you good luck in the battle of the budget as you face off against the realities of the fiscal situation.
Thank you.
But we're at the end of our time. I want to thank you for joining me, Chancellor.
Thank you, Marcia.
And I want to thank you at home for joining me as well.